Everyone, this is Benjamin Ramirez. This is my first video, so I'm going to do an explanation of everything and then I'm going to play. Mostly this is for me, but after I become CM, I will be selling these videos for $1 each, maybe more depending on prices depending on how long it takes, maybe two. Now, my plan, now if you look at this right here, I can move this around, obviously. And at 100, it's rating 2,300, which is Candidate Master. Candidate Masters make mistakes. They're not super strong. They're not Grandmasters. They're not best in the world. They're not Magnus Carlsen. He will beat them very easily. So these are specifically designed to show you how I became a Candidate Master, because if you're watching this, there's a good chance that I've already became one, and then I'm selling the video. So right now that I'm doing them for storage for myself, I'm keeping them to myself for studying. Every day, what I plan to do is, I'm not sure if I'm doing it yet or not, is play one game of white and one game of black against 100. So let's get started. Alright. Now, all my openings, I have an opening report that I'm trying to work on, and this is going to help me. All my openings start with E4. That is my first. Now he replied with C5. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to be thinking about moves and then using Stockfish app to determine if it's actually good or not. So I'm going to do it with every move. Now for me, what I play normally here is B4. That's my normal move. That's my opening. So I'll be playing that. It rates it as a pretty much almost a whole point difference. So it's not considered the best move. However, it is very playable. If I change that, let's say maybe 50 games in or more, maybe I will, maybe I won't. So here, I normally play knight to F3. So here we go. I'm going to look at it, and according to Stockfish app, knight to F3 is the best move, so that is good. I'm going to be looking at least top 4 moves, each and every move. After D5, I normally take. All my openings on this so far as of today started off with knight to C6, D4, and then D5. So I'm going to think about more possible moves that I might like. So E takes D4, 5 is 1, E5, and I don't really see any other good moves. So there are 2 moves that I think that are playable. And this is how I'm going to work on my openings and my games. I'm going to look at them. I'm going to try to figure out what I think is good. Bishop to B5 looks okay. I want to find at least 4 possible moves that might work. So bishop, if I can. So bishop to B5. E takes D5. E5. Those are 3 moves. I don't see a 4th move. And that's fine, because sometimes there's sometimes there will only be one good move. So let's see what Stockfish picks. I personally like E takes D5 best. So let me make the computer move. E takes D5, E5, and bishop B5 are the top 3 moves. Bishop to D3 is possible, which I thought of, but I thought it'd be too cramping. It's actually rated almost the same as bishop to B5. So, okay. So I'm going to play the one I wanted to, E takes D5, and I will be doing this the whole entire time to check all my moves. Now after queen takes, my thought processing on my opening, because I'm doing my own opening report, so is C4. C4 is a move that I like the best. I had a problem with someone in the past, but I don't think it's going to happen here. If I go C4, I Someone ended up moving their queen to e5 at some point and taking my rook. So I know to be mindful. My knight is covering that square, the e5 square. I don't remember exactly how they did it. I'm going to have to go back in my games. But c4 I think is best. I can play d4. I can play d3. I can play c4. There's 3 moves. I can probably even play bishop to d3, which is something I would never do. So I'm going to go with c4. Let's see what computer likes. It likes, a3 is a move I didn't consider. I forgot about a3. Bishop to b2 it also considers. However, d4 and c4 are the highest two. It likes d4 a little better. But because I prefer c4, I'm going to play that. I'm not trying to memorize the perfect move in every single situation. It's impossible. I like to play moves that I understand, that I like, and that Stockfish approves of. So as long as it's not losing for me, then I'm okay with it. And if I'm winning and this makes me not winning or equal, then that'd be a different story. So c4. He takes. My normal move is knight takes c3, which I'm pretty sure Stockfish will like. Any other move, maybe bishop to b5. I personally like knight to c3. I'm starting from the beginning this way, even though I normally don't, because I already know what I like. But I want to explain the process to you. That way you can do this yourself for you. So this is what I'm using. So knight takes c3, bishop to a3, bishop to b5, even possibly d4. Those are the 4 top moves. I personally like knight takes c3 best. Let's look. Okay, bishop to e2 is also possible. Queen to a4, queen to c2. Knight takes c3 equalizes. Everything else is losing by 1 point. So I equalized, even though I was a small disadvantage at the beginning. It equalized, which is normally what happens in this opening when I do it on Stockfish. So I don't understand why it puts me at a negative like 0.7 in the beginning, from like a 0.5 advantage to like a negative 0.7, even though it normally equalizes after a few moves. So it should really be just equal to begin with, because this is what normally happens. Alright, here I can play rook to b1, which is very powerful because it prevents his bishop from moving, his c8 bishop. I like it very much. Bishop to b5 is also still possible. Bishop to c4 attacks the f7 square, which I think I like the best because it's super aggressive. I haven't played d4 yet, which normally after knight to c6 I play d4 and then we end up here. Then I can play bishop to d2, which is what I normally have, but I can't do it here because if I play d4 he would just take my knight. So my dark square bishop is going to be on a different square and my pawn won't be on d4, so I gotta take that into account in my moves. So I would be saving my bishop for a3. That means I might be okay to play a4. That way, to see what he does, and maybe play bishop to a3 to attack. So my moves are a4, bishop to c4, attacking the f7 square. Those are my 2 moves that I like the best. Alternative moves are bishop to b5 and bishop to e2. If I had to pick one out of the bunch, I would play bishop to c4, only because I like attacking squares. I forgot about rook to b1. That's also possible. So let's see what the computer says after I play. Bishop to b2 is actually on top. A move I did not consider. That's interesting. Bishop to d3 is also one of the top ones, which is also something I didn't really consider as a good move. Queen to b3 is also there, which I did not consider. That's weird. Bishop to c4 is equal. The other three are up by a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. Rook to b1 is a slightly under. Bishop to b5 slightly under. A4 slightly under. Bishop to c4 actually went under now after more calculations. Let's see. Out of actually bishop to c4 is negative 0.5 instead of equal. Bishop b2 equal, queen to b3 equal, bishop to b5. I'm going to remember at least everything here seems okay. So bishop c4 is not playable for me because it's not as good as like 6 other moves. So now my goal is, because of that, I have to pick out one of these moves that I like the best, understand the best in this position, so that when I play a game, that's the one I'll use. That way, as it advances, I have a better grasp of it. So bishop to b2 is something I don't understand very well because I never French hit my bishop, so that's not going to be a good one. Bishop to d3 blocks my pawn and very natural. I would not be using that one. Queen to b3 is possible because it kind of can be followed with by bishop to c4. So queen to b3 is very likable here. Bishop to c4 is still playable, but I think part of its issues is hanging maybe. I'm not sure. Even after queen to b3, I would be able to attack the pawn on b. It actually does what rook to b1 does, and also a bishop to c4 does. So queen to b3 actually does both of their jobs. So because of that, I think I would try to remember this and use queen to b3 in the future because I understand it the best and I see target points. Okay, knight to f6 it plays. So after knight to f6, I have to consider moves again. I'm thinking bishop to c4 just to continue because it does attack. Bishop to a3 seemed interesting because it will prevent the pawn from going up. Because if I go bishop c4, he might just play a6. So, but if I play bishop to a3 and then bishop to c4, he can't really do that without maybe losing his bishop. So I think bishop to a3 might be best here. Rook to b1 is possible. In these type of variations, I like to, bishop to b5. I like to attack in different ways. But I like bishop to a3 best. So let's see what Stockfish says. Stockfish likes bishop to b5 more than anything else. I've done something similar before in a game, but the pawn was on d4. Well, actually, my pawn was on d5 actually, because I pushed it. His knight was back. Yeah. I followed the pawn. It's a little different, but bishop to e5 I have played before in the past with my pawn all the way on d5, bishop on d2, and his knight was back there because he played horribly. Bishop c4 is playable. Bishop b5, d4. Bishop to a3. So far, bishop b5 and bishop a3 is the top two that it likes. So I'm going to play bishop to a3 since I understand the reasons why behind it better and the mechanics. It's very important to know why you're playing what you're playing, because otherwise I just have to memorize the moves, and I'm not interested in memorizing a whole bunch of moves. I'm interested in understanding my moves. Okay, he played knight to d. I'm gonna put my flashlight on because it's dark out and I can't see my chessboard. Yeah, that's better. Hopefully my battery don't run out too fast. Actually, I'm recording, so I might want to have a little bit better lighting. I apologize for that. So, it's dark out and my lamp isn't working, so I need to do this for my chessboard. After knight to d7, I have to consider different moves again. I like bishop to c4 again. I think now I finally prepared enough to play it. I might play rook to b1, putting extra pressure on the b7 pawn. I have to consider his attacks. He can move his knight to c5. If I take, he takes. And I don't have a follow-up. So, but if I have bishop on c4 and he does that, then I'll be better off. So I think bishop to c4 is best here. I can play rook to b1, bishop c4, maybe even bishop to d3. That keeps popping up over and over again. At least I know it's a decent move. So bishop to c4 is what I like best. So let's see. Bishop to b4 is what it likes the best. Knight to b5 is also a move it likes. Bishop c4 isn't even in the top 7 moves. That's weird. Oh, there it goes. I finally made its way up there a little bit after more evaluation. So bishop b4 attacks the queen, obviously. The queen has almost nowhere to go, really. I'd probably just go to queen at b6. But then that would allow my rook to move. Actually, my rook on c1 would be really good there. If I force him to move his queen, I can move my rook to c1 and then possibly my knight over to b5, attacking the square he hasn't castled yet. So actually, bishop to b4 is actually I'm liking it a lot more. So in this position here, I'm gonna have to remember that pattern. So I'm gonna play bishop to b4 because not only is it the best move so far, I actually understand something with it. If you don't understand why it's a good move and you just do it because it's a good move, you're just gonna have to memorize every single thing. So I like it, so I play it. And he plays queen to b6. I like rook to c1 here because after knight to maybe b5, well, I can't play b5 right away because the bishop's in there, but rook to c1. Actually, my bishop is protecting b5, so it's safe. So I like rook to c1. I can play bishop knight to b5 as well early. I can play bishop c4, but I like rook to c1 best. So after a few moves, let's see what it determines. Rook to c1 is best. Queen to a3, which is a little weird, but it does attack that pawn twice. That is actually not a bad move. I like it. I'm not going to play it, but I like it. The reason I'm going to play rook to c1 is because that's what I understood the best out of all the moves. Knight to b5, like I thought, is up there. Queen to a4 is possible. Okay, that's fine enough for me. Rook to c1 it is. I understand that the best. So, and it is. I'm glad that I'll always be happy when the best move is the one I understand. He moves pawn up one. I'm a little unsure if I can take it. or not, or if I should take it. Part of me wants to only because of the castling part. I want to keep him vulnerable. If I take it and he takes with his knight, I can go bishop to b5 check. If he moves his bishop up, I can take it and call check. But his other knight can come in and take it. So let me see here. Hope you can follow that. If you can't, use a chessboard, review it, look it over again. So let's see here. And also, if I take with his bishop, he can just go take my queen. I take back, then he takes that. Kind of ruins my whole attack. So I'm gonna do knight to b5 actually, and not trade yet. I think I'm still able to if I want to in the future. So I like knight to b5 best. I've considered a bishop capture. I've considered bishop to b5. I considered enough moves to make a move. But I like knight to b5 best. Now let's see what Stockfish says. Knight to b5. Other moves, bishop takes f8, which I considered. Knight to b5 is up by a whole point. Bishop takes f8, the second move is a negative point. Actually, b5 is up 2 points now. Almost. Alright, I don't have to consider the rest. That's actually really good. So knight to b5 was actually the best move. So I will be playing it. Okay. Now that he goes here, there's a threat to capture my queen. So obviously I have to either move my queen or take his piece. Now, the best way to take the piece, I think, would be with my bishop because of his bishop. So I don't have to calculate very much on that. If I move my queen, I don't even know a good square to move it to besides queen to a4, maybe? No, wait. Queen to a3. I said that wrong, I'm sorry. Queen to a4 will just lose it. I'm at queen to a3. But he has a possible check, and if I take, that'd be a free piece for me. I gotta consider him anyways, because don't want to make a mistake. Alright, so queen to a3 seems okay. Capturing is okay. If I capture, his bishop will go back and take. Threatening my f2 pawn. If I go d4, I'll block his bishop. And he'll have two defenders, two knights. So if he tries taking, I can take and be safe. And also threaten c7. So I think taking would be best here. Let's see what the Stockfish says. And I'll let the knight over now. Move his knight over. Okay. Now, it likes queen to a3, queen to c3 are the top two moves. Queen to a3 much higher. Capturing is a negative point. So I wanted to capture. That's what I wanted to do. It is not very good. So now I have to look at this a little bit more. Yeah, if I capture, he captures. I play d4, bishop to d6, and he's in a decent position. So that was why. So I got to look at things, and I didn't think about the positional part. I thought about him not being able to continue to attack, and I was happy with that. I look at the position part as well. So queen to a3 it is, or queen to c3. Queen to c3 actually also attacks the c7. Queen to a3 allows the possibility to attack the bishop. So I'm a little stuck, but I think the c7 square is a little bit more. stronger to attack. So I'm gonna go queen of c3. Okay, I didn't even consider that move. I already know that I did a good move because Stockfish approved, but I didn't consider that move. And these are the things that I have to pay very good attention to, because if I don't understand all the threats and attacks, then I'm going to be in a whole lot of trouble in the actual gameplay, which is why I need to understand my moves. Let's say he didn't play that move. Let's say he played a different move that was equally as good, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this is a good move, and I do it, and that happens, and I'm stuck, and I'm like, oh wow, I messed up, when it really was a good move. That's why I need to understand why it was a good move. So now that he did that, I'm thinking just going queen to a3, just because I feel that was better, which means in the future I might just play queen to a3 unless I see something very beneficial for me. I think queen to c2 would be good, because I think queen to c2 might be good, or queen to c4. It'll keep the pressure on. He's safe. I might even do bishop to d3 at some point to attack his other knight. So I like queen to c2, queen to c4. And queen at a3 are the three moves that I think is good. I prefer queen to c4. So let's see what the Stockfish says. I moved the queen over one already. He moved his knight down, which was the best move for him. It says queen to e5, bishop takes, bishop to a5, queen e3, queen to d4, queen to c4 is apparently positionally bad. It doesn't have an actual tactic it shows. It just shows that it's a -1 and some change. So queen to e5. Queen to e5 attacks the same square again. I did not consider that, but it's definitely something to remember. And it looks a little complicated. So I'm going to play queen to e5, and then I'm going to have to go over this game and study it and understand it better, because I want to play moves that I'm comfortable with, that I like, and obviously I can, since I already have some understanding of it, I have less homework to understand. So queen to e5 it is. My thought processing was too passive. So he moved his king over, obviously to prevent an issue. Now if I take his knight, I think I can take his knight, because he would have to take with his bishop. If I take his knight with my bishop, my b4 bishop takes. His bishop takes. That seems very good. Another option I'm thinking about is knight to c7, but he can just take it with his queen. I can play bishop to b5 right after, and his king is basically crossed, and he only has 2 moves. But I don't really see how I can continue in a good way. So I'm thinking bishop takes c5 is best. Knight to c7 is too complicated for me, but if it likes it, then I will look into it. I only see those 2 moves. I don't see anything else that would have any kind of impact. So let's see what Stockfish says. Rook to c4, knight to g5, queen to d4. There's a lot of moves that it considers that are good here. queen to f4, knight to g5, rook to b1, bishop takes c5 is a lower move. Bishop takes c5, I'm at a 2-point advantage. Rook to c4 is a 5-point advantage. Rook to c4 might lead to rook to d4. So I see a lot of attacks with rook to c4, lifting the rook. So it does make some sense to me. So because it makes some sense, I'm going to play it. And then when I'm studying on my own, I would have to really try to understand it better and look into it more. Because it does make sense to me, even though I didn't consider it. So, rook to c4. All right. Rook to d4 is the only move I can think of. Okay, it considers that. It also likes queen to f4. Those are the only two moves it's considering as good. Everything else is equal and lower. So rook to d4, which is what I thought the purpose of lifting the rook was. Okay. He moves over one. I don't even know where to begin. He has two defenders on d6, so I can't just simply go there. My queen's under attack. I have a lot going on, but queen to f4 was suggested before as a possible move. If I play it now, he can simply just play e5. If I take his knight with my bishop, he can take my queen, and then I can take his queen, then he can take my bishop. Would I even be able to attack him after that? Now that I think about this, bishop takes c5, pawn takes e5, bishop takes b6. Let's say pawn takes d4. My knight can go to e5 and call it check. His king can take my bishop, so I wouldn't want to do that. One, bam, two, bam. My bishop would have to go back to d4, taking the pawn. I'm at a complete loss here. So I'm going to see what it says. Since I'm at a loss here, I think of capturing. I don't see anything that I can actually do that would be beneficial. I mean, queen to h5 might be okay. But let's see now. Queen to f4 is actually playable. Bishop to c4 is playable. Apparently he can't take my queen. I don't know why yet. A4 looks playable. Okay, so queen to f4, a4, bishop to c4, bishop to e2, h4, rook to g1, g3, h3, and g4. All of it a +6 and higher. So what's up with queen to f4? I'm gonna play queen to f4, and I'm gonna try to understand that the best. I think that would be I need to really. This whole thing might take me a whole month to understand. Okay, he moved the pawn down. Now I can understand why that might be bad. Now I can take it with my knight and call it check, and if he takes it, I can take it with my queen. That will leave his king very vulnerable. I don't know how to take advantage of it yet, but queen to d5 looks possible. Okay, and now I see why queen f4 is okay. It actually makes sense. So let's see what it says. Knight takes e5. fx, queen takes. Okay, let's do it. Pawn takes, and queen takes. And let's see what he does. He takes the rook. Apparently he took that. I think I had a checkmate going on, maybe, very likely. Why else would he take that piece? Queen to d5 would have been checkmate if he didn't take that, if he moved a random piece. So now I'm going to have to look at that type of checkmate to learn it. That will be my homework. After he moves, I'm pretty sure taking his queen is probably the best thing I can do. Let's look into more moves. Queen to d5 check. He'll move his king over one. Or king to c7 maybe. Then I take the queen. If I take the queen now, he'll go to king to b5. So the question is, do I want king to b5 or king to c7? And I think I want king to b5 because it's more exposed. So I think I'll take with the bishop. Let's take a look. Queen to e8. There's a nice x-ray, just nice screw x-ray, whatever it's called. Queen to d5 check, and bishop to b5. Top three is queen to e8, queen to d5, and bishop to b5. Because of what I'm trying to do and learn and understand when it comes to tactics, I think queen to e8 will be best. I think queen to e8 would be best. This is something that I would rather understand and like the most. Obviously I get to take his queen with my bishop, and he agrees. I'll just be very simple with moves that are very simple. Okay, now I think rook to d6 might be bad because it's attacked more than once. I like the first glance because it's attacking the king, but it's not attacking the king enough. I don't know if I should move my bishop away. Or if I should castle. I like the idea of castling because it brings my rook into the game. My mind after 40 minutes is kind of destroyed, which means I need to work on my mental endurance. I don't think very well right now. Hopefully after a few of these, my mind becomes much stronger. You will definitely see my progress, and I will see my progress. But this is how I'm starting off, and if you haven't done it yet and you run into the same issue with your mental stamina, don't feel bad, because if you're watching this video, that means I've already become at least a CM, and I went through that and I became fine. So don't let that discourage you. If that happened before 40 minutes the first time you try it, that's okay too, because everybody has to start at somewheres, and I've been playing chess for a little while, so maybe if I first started out, it would have been harder for me. So just so you know, don't get discouraged if that happened to you. Because of all that, I think I'm going to castle. Let's see what he says. Oh, castle's top. Queen to d8 is also possible for check. But if I play queen to d8, bishop b5, castle b6, that's very complicated. So castling. Alright, that's awesome. I like castling. It liked castling. We're going to castle. Now the knight moved back to attack the queen. Now already seeing queen to d8 was a good move with the castle. So I know it's possible. I don't see where my queen can actually move to that would defend the bishop. So that means I have to do something. I can play rook to d6 check. If the bishop takes, I take his rook, but then he'll take my bishop. Let's say rook to d6 check. He takes my rook. I take his rook. That's even. He takes my bishop. It is no longer even. I take his knight. He takes my knight. I fly all the way rook to c1 check. He moves away. Rook to c8 check. I think I found a very nice combination that I like, and I want to go for it. So I'm going to start off with rook to d6 if it allows, and I want to see how far. Okay, so queen to d8 is super winning. Queen to e5 is winning. Bishop. Rook to d6 check is what I wanted to play. Is rated at 0.7 higher. Queen to d8 check is 20 points higher. Because I'm a human being and I am learning, and I seen a possible way to win, I am going to go for my win. So I want to see how this plays out, because I want to understand, and if I have a mistake in my thought processing, I'll learn it, and then I can improve and learn and improve. So I'm going to go with rook to d6. He takes, and I take his rook. Let's see if that's what they think of. Queen takes h8 is okay. I take, and after he takes, I play. Ooh, I'm a little off here. I am a little off. Bishop to c5 is what I was thinking, which it does agree with, but I'm off in my thought processing because I thought of his bishop being there, my rook attacking it. Oh no, I'm not off, because my rook attacking it would force him to move it, but he can move. Rook to c1 is what I wanted. Queen takes g7 is best. Rook to b1 check is good. Rook to c1 is what I wanted. So I'm going to go rook to c1, and I want to see how this plays out. Okay. Now I place it on the board. He takes, I take his rook. He takes my bishop. I take his knight. He takes here. I play rook to c1. b6 is the move that he played. And after b6, Now I have to figure out. I think d4 is actually the move here. So let's see how this plays out. Queen to g7 is best still. Queen to d8, a4, a3, a3. d4 is still a 5-point lead. Queen to g7 is best. So I'm going to play rook to d4 because this is a move I understand and it is still winning. So because of the bishop, he takes, of course, and then I take his bishop, which is what I was thinking of, and that's the best move according to this. And the idea was to be left with a queen and 2 minor pieces, which was my whole thought a couple moves back. So at least my thought processing was correct in a winning situation, even though it wasn't the best winning situation. Winning is winning. I don't care if it's the most fanciest, if it's the best, if it's the most boring, if it's, if you find a winning combination, I mean, of course, if you're trying to be super grandmaster or grandmaster, then you want to learn and understand the best of the best of the best. My goal is to just be master. I'm 33. I started studying in December. It's October. Hasn't even been a year yet. I'm expecting to be master at least, even though online I've seen no one after 20 has become a master. It's probably because everyone after 20 probably already has their career in line. So I do not. And people who don't have their careers in line usually are not motivated. I am. So there's a lot of social factors I think that are involved. I don't think it's a matter of mental physics. I think it's more of a social factor. Okay, now that we got this out the way, if I call check, queen to f5 check, I can't take this pawn because of that. Queen to f8 would attack his pawn. And knight, he can move his pawn. He would have to be forced his bishop to defend the knight. Queen to d6 after would it fork his knight and bishop. He can move his bishop out the way. And still defend his knight. Would I be able to attack? I'm not sure. So I think queen to f8 seems okay. I'm not 100% sure if I can win his bishop that way or not, but I can definitely inch closer. So I'm going to see. My mental stamina is pretty low, so I'm going to attempt to do what I can with the stamina that I have left. Queen to d8 is best. Queen to f5 check. I consider that, but I disregarded it. Queen e6, queen e4. Queen to f8 is a 6-point lead. Queen to d8 is best, is 7.3, so it's still not too bad. I'll play it. It's the move that I understood the best. So when you do this for yourself, make sure that it's the moves you understand best. Otherwise, you're going to be playing stuff that you don't understand, and you're not going to learn. This position I foresaw similar, and I understood enough. That's what makes it okay. Queen over here, like I thought. Stockfish likes it. King moves over. Now I'm a little unsure how to continue, because I have his bishop and knight forts. I'm thinking about centralizing my king. I think that would be a good idea. That's one of the chess rules. Let's see. Queen to c6, king f1. Okay. Centralizing king chess principle is good here, which is what I thought. After his move, that would be king to e2 if I'm continuing to centralize. I'm going to make sure to keep my king and queen in opposite colors. If for any reason, if I'm going to put them in the same color, I would have to check out for tactics with the knight or bishop. And because the knight can check my king on the white squares, I have to make sure a combination as well. Because the game's not over. Even though it's a winning situation, it's not over. And I have to play like it's not over because it's not. So here I like king to e2. Let's see what it says. King to e2 is not anything here. Let's see if I can add more moves. 1, 2, 3. At least top 10 moves I'll have it in now, because the end game usually almost anything is good sometimes. It's kind of weird because when you try to learn it, I always make small errors. Queen to c6, h4, g3, h3, g4, queen, 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 queen. All queen moves. So because it's not king to e2, I will simply play the best move that it says, which is queen to c6 check. And maybe I will learn to understand the most precise move that is playing. Okay. Now after checking the king moves, I like the idea of moving my pawn, either f3 or h3, for the purpose of g4, and maybe even messing with the knight. So let's see if f3 or h3 is a move. So I call a check, he moves over one. Queen to b5 is best, queen to f3 is also very well. h4, g3, f3. f3 is a point less than the bishop queen to b5. So I will be playing the f3 move. King moves over one. Obviously I can't move my... Well, actually I can right now because my queen is protecting my pawn. I think g4 is the idea here for me. Let's see what it says. G4 is not anywhere in the top 10. So I'm prepared to move that I'm not able to play yet. And then of course I have to understand why later. I'll go over this game again myself. That's what you should do. After you finish doing this and looking at the moves, if you don't understand it, make sure you have everything in place so you can go back to it and review it. And then play the moves you actually liked and why you liked it, and see what computer does against it to find out why it's actually bad or not. Right now, g4 is a move I wanted to play, but I can't play because it's not even in top 10. After this game's over, I'll go back to find out why it's a bad move. And it's something you have to do for yourself because your endgame positions might be a little different than mine. But this is what I'm doing for me. So, after king moves, the best move is queen to c4, which is what I'm going to play. I see that the queen to c4 kind of restricts the king. It puts the king and queen on the same color, but the knight is on black. It has to move to white. It can't check anyone, and it can't check anyone. So now the pawn moves up. I would just take the pawn. Honestly, let's see what it says. Yeah, the pawn move is one of them. Not the best move. It has a million moves that are good, but I'll take the pawn because I'm not a computer. I'm not going to play a million awesome queen moves and running around the board for the best position. That's what I'm not going to be doing. Okay. Now, I like the idea of queen to e2 check to try to jar the king a little bit. And then maybe I can play my g4 move after. I would have to learn later on why I couldn't play it before. Queen of c4, queen of b6 are the best two, queen of c6, queen of e2 isn't even. I gotta widen the search because it's showing me a million moves that are fine, that are all queen moves. It's like almost anything with a queen is fine. G4 is actually not horrible. It's a 2-point difference. But what I don't understand is why he's playing it now and not queen and e2 first to prepare, which is another thing I'm going to have to look at to understand. G4, he moves away. I think G5 will be the move. G5 is actually was one of the top moves it said, so that was my interest. And I just would kick the knight out of that area. I didn't like the square he was on. He was protected by the bishop. Now he's not really protected by the bishop. I think queen to d7 would be good here because I'll be taking the pawn and pinning the knight. Let's see. Okay, that is actually the best move, which I'm happy about. If it wasn't the best move and I was still winning, I would play it because I like the idea of attacking pieces. I can defend my pawn first, which I will do. It says to do so. Now I can take his pawn if it says it's good enough. Let's see. Okay, that's good enough. Oh, it was best move, so. But even if it's not the best move, it's still, when it's good enough, it's just good enough. Here, I'm thinking about moving my king to e2. I want to get my king closer. Let's see what it says. Queen e2 is definitely playable. It says h5 is the best here, which I can actually see why, because it actually simplifies the pawns. So I'm going to play it, and I'm going to try to remember in this position to, or a similar position to simply just simplify the pawns, because I like the idea of that. Alright, queen takes h5 is one of the top moves. It's not the top move. I think that's a little weird. He moves over. I just move my pawn up one. What I would do. It suggests that as one of the good moves. It's not one of the best moves, but it's one of the good moves. All right. Apparently a3 is the move. I played a move that I didn't understand very well because he can take the pawn. He literally can just take the pawn. That's not good. I don't like this. I see it was a good move, so I played it without really looking into it too much. It is a good move still. Doesn't change anything. So I'll just play queen to h8 like it says. And call it check. King will take. f4. So I'll just march up my pawn the best I can. Queen to h5 check. I'm going to simplify the whole endgame part as best as I can with the idea of, I'll call it check, of marching my pawn forward. Anything that shows me marching my pawn forward or how to progress that is what I want to play. And then when I review it, I can just see how I did that. And I have to make sure that he can't just simply capture my pawns. So that's what I'm doing right now with the endgame. Endgames can be more complicated than the actual games, I think. The F pawn. Any movement of the F pawn? There is no movement F pawn. F7, there it goes. Okay, it's up there. I'll move it. Just want to make sure I don't lose it for no reason. Alright. I can't do anything yet with it. But queen to a6 looks promising. Okay, knight protects the pawn. I can actually take his pawn, so I'm going to, just to remove anything at all that he can possibly do in the future. And he doesn't take my pawn, but that's okay. I'll take his. He can't do anything with my pawn yet. So I'm gonna go a4 first, just to have an extra pawn for safety. I don't need it because I have stockfish and I know I'm gonna win. But in an actual gameplay, that's what I would do. So I'm going to play like I would do in an actual gameplay. So now I'm getting ready to threaten 2 different pawn promotions. And this is what I would do in a gameplay. Even though it wasn't the best move, it turned out to look okay. I'll protect the pawn. He can't directly attack it. Okay. He moved over. I'll just simply push the pawn. King moves over. I think this right here protects both pawns, but I want to go over queen to b8. Is that even possible? Okay, it's one of the best moves. I mean, there's like a whole bunch of best moves it has. It's already just freaking insane. But that's the one I like the best because of what it does. Now I can move my pawn up one. He captures. Of course, I'm going to capture back. He moves up one. Wow, there's a lot of mates right now. Mate in 9, mate in 10, mate in 13. Queen to d7 is best. I was thinking queen to e8, which is not even on there. Not even in the top 10. So I'll do queen to d7. Oh, wait. Queen e7 is in it now. Okay. It's actually now, okay. It's actually mate in 8, queen to e7. Alright, awesome. So I thought of that. I'm happy about it. I almost didn't even play it. I think I would just move the pawn up is what I would do. It shortens the mate in 3 moves, but instead of 7 moves, it'd be 10. But that's what I would do in actual gameplay, because I know after he does that, I automatically win. So that's pretty much it. All I have to do is I'm not even gonna use stockfish anymore after this. It's just a simple queen endgame where you just block the king out. I'll just chase him down. I don't even care about the amount of moves it takes, because in real gameplay someone would just resign. There's really no point. Alright, and good game. Alright, this took a whole hour. Now that I did this, I have to go back and review everything I did. So, initial position. Let's go to initial position. I had questions. This is fine. This is fine. This is fine. 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 At what point did I have questions is what I'm going to go back to. Okay, that's the part that I didn't like. Okay, so now this move here. All right, I moved over to c3 because it said it was the best move. So I moved here. He moved here. Queen to e5 was the next move. He has lots of different responses. He could have played bishop to d7, king to d8, f6, queen to d7. He played his king move. The rook went up one. He moved the pawn up one. See, here I could have played queen to f4. Here it says knight to g5, queen to f4, d4. Let's see what would have happened if I went queen to... Oh, it's not letting me do that. But it will let me on my other app. So if I went queen to... Alright. That's interesting. Alright. That was the move. I called check. He moved over one. This is the one I didn't understand very well, but after this I found out that the knight move was really good. I'm reviewing it over on Stockfish and looking at it here, which is something I would suggest anyone to do. Apparently, according to this app, queen to b5 was the only move. Everything else would be checkmate. Queen to d8 is checkmate in 11. Just e6 is checkmate in 8. Knight to d3 is checkmate in 7. a6, g6, h6, a5 is all is checkmate in 1 because of queen to d5. Actually, I found out queen to d5 was checkmate when I was doing the video. I'm like, that would have been checkmate. So I'm happy about that. So that's pretty cool. I'll look at this position later. He takes check. He moved over, took, moved over. This was actually very good that I thought of those moves to do this. Now, oops. I was just playing it out. Now, let's say I didn't do that. Let's say after here, instead of calling check on d6, it had a better move. That was queen to... Well, there was d8 check, queen to e5, bishop to q5. If I want queen to d8 and knight takes b5, queen to c7, b6. I don't know. I still think it's a little much. I'm happy the way I played it. Because they guaranteed to win pretty much. Granted, I didn't blunder. So, hope you liked the video. I enjoyed it very much. This is my first one. I'm going to review it over again on my own time. I was going to do 2 games, but 1 hour for 1 game is a lot of thinking. So I'm going to decline that and just do 1 video for an hour. And I might do this every day for a while. It might help me with pattern recognition and so forth, and combinations, and seeing certain tactics that are okay or not. It lets me know when I make errors, the type of errors that I make, and so forth. So I'll learn very much from it. If you purchased this video at all and want to ask me how I went about it and what apps I use and something similar, I can share that information with you. Thank you for your time. You can always like and subscribe as well. I'm gonna always make some type of public videos. Enjoy your chess.